নমস্কার, সেন্টার ফর নলেজ আইডিয়াস অ্যান্ড ডেভেলপমেন্ট স্টাডিজ এর পক্ষ থেকে সকলকে জানাই শুভ সন্ধে। আমরা আজকে আগেই ঘোষণা করেছিলাম আমাদের আজকের অতিথি হবেন বিশিষ্ট পুতুল নাচ বিশেষজ্ঞ ডিমিট্রি জাজেনো। আমরা ডিমিট্রিকে পেয়েছি। এখন আমরা ডিমিট্রিকে আমাদের প্ল্যাটফর্মে ডেকে নেব। Good evening.
Good evening. Namaste
Yes,
to everyone.
welcome to NIDS Center for Knowledge Ideas and Development Studies Facebook Live page.
Thank you too.
Today we have with us famous puppeteer Dimitri Jageneau. Dimitri, artistic director of the Royal Theatre Peruchet since 2008, Brussels, Belgium. Marionnettist, curator of the International Puppet Museum, Brussels, founded in 1938. Artistic director of the International Festival GEM, dramatist and director, author and essayist. Vice President of UNIMA Belgian French section since 2018. International UNIMA Independent Counselor since 2016. Member of International Commissions UNIMA Europe, UNIMA Heritage, UNIMA Communication since 2016. Dimitri postgraduated in philosophy and culture in theatrical studies and graduated with a master in political science. Born in a famous family of European puppetry, started puppetry at the age of 11. He has participated in thousands of shows and plays hundreds of shows per season since 2008 at Royal Theatre Peruchet, International Puppet Museum, Brussels. Welcome, Dimitri.
Welcome, namaste to everyone and to everybody from India and from everywhere.
Today we have with us our colleague Shejuti Ghosh. Now over to you, Shejuti and Dimitri.
Yeah. Hello, Dimitri.
Hello, Shejuti. Hello.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm going well. So I think as everybody in this world with this lockdown, a little bit with freedom or not freedom, with some kind of bubble or big bubble or small bubble, but it could be, I hope, better for everyone and for India and for Belgium. I hope so. So that for the puppeteer and for everyone in the performing arts, because it's a very tough time and a little bit tragedy time for a lot of people, not only for the puppeteers.
Yeah. So, Dimitri, we're talking about European puppet theater and culture. Yeah, and I see a whole lot of puppet behind you from all over the place, from all over Europe. So.
But because I have some favorites or some puppets that I want to have with me, even in the lockdown. So that's difficult to have a museum at home. So I cannot have 3,000 puppets at home. That's not possible. So I have to make choice. And sometimes it's the lazy choice. So what is the easiest way of packing and taking some and bringing some puppets to home? So the easiest is to perhaps to receive a puppet from a friend from Italy, because we have preparing an exhibition about Italian puppetry in my museum. So that will be the topic, urban puppet culture. So that's perfect. For example, I can say this one. This one. Sorry, I come back. That's too classical, if we want, puppets from Italy. is glove puppets, so it's not by this way that we have to put hands in the puppets, of course. So there are also glove puppets there from Calcutta. The only one puppet that we have in our museum is from Benipoto. So we have the
Yes.
chance to have some good Benipoto in our museum.
Yeah.
So that there is a character from Venezia, and there is Pantalone. Pantalone is a little bit a character who love money. He's a merchant, very rich merchant, and he's a little bit with a very small spirit. He wants only to make money. But it's a character invented in the time of the Commedia dell'arte in Italy. It's a new character from the modernity of from the 16th century in Italy, and this character is very famous. This puppet was made by Gigio Brunello. He's a master still living in Italy, and this for my exhibition. I have asked to him to lend me this puppet, and this one is perhaps most fabulous and most known because everybody almost in Italy knows the character with this lozenge. That's Arlecchino. Arlecchino is the hero from Venezia, from this rich city and one of the most important city in the Middle Age and the second part of the Middle Age in Europe. So even in this city, there is a mythology. There are some mythology about puppetry, and this mythology from Venezia who explain what is puppetry. It's a little bit bizarre, but this city has a legend about puppetry. And this city is there was also a city for the business, the market to go to the Silk Road to find spies in India or in Indonesia or in China, and they have a lot of contacts and rich city. This was an independent city. There was not a state, but a city-state so powerful that the Ottoman empires, for example, make business with them. There was very rich city. There was not a state, and parallelly to the Rome and Vatican or other states, um, beginning states in Europe, because in the Middle Age there was no real states like Spain or Portugal or Belgium. There was no existence of these states. There was more cities and empire, or sometimes there was borders, a little bit without borders. But in the Italy culture and civilization, Venezia is very important city. And this story, I will start with this perhaps city, is one possible reading explanation about the puppetry inside the Europe tradition. They say that one day there was a very beautiful woman. They have it's a little bit like a little bit the story of Rama and Sita, but perhaps there are some kind of accordance and some parallels. Very beautiful woman, and she was very rich, and she got to a marriage. But before the marriage, this beautiful and rich woman from Venezia uh, was in a boat to go in some place with other very young, beautiful virgin ladies. But unfortunately, there was pirates, and they kidnapped all these the most beautiful girls from Venezia, and they have asked a lot of money. The city knew at that time that was finished for them. There was no possibility to save these beautiful girls, and there was 16 beautiful young lady, and they have decided every year, not in the time of the carnival, because also Venice is known for the carnival. You see the masks. That's the heritage and the legacy from the Commedia dell'arte. And they have decided to make shows, puppet shows. There's one explanation, and it was like that they have to play to have a kind of ceremony to recall the death of these beautiful ladies and the image, perhaps the lost image of the beautiful and powerful city. But they have lost the most beautiful girls or ladies from the city. And the puppeteer was in this side a possibility, a purpose to give back this beauty to all everybody. That's one an explanation. Venezia is the city for the explorers, missionaries, and also from Marco Polo. Marco Polo is perhaps somebody the less appreciated or regarded in the history of European culture. We speak about Galilei, we speak about a lot of people, but Marco Polo is every time somewhere backstage. But he was very important. He has discovered and open borders, and he has discovered a very important way to go to Asia. And when Marco Polo came in China, he discovered that China was also a country of puppets, and they have puppets, glove puppets. And there is an hypothesis because before Marco Polo, there was no glove puppets. Puppet was only strings or shadows or dolls, but no glove puppets. That's one hypothesis. We're not sure, but as spaghetti or as perhaps the porcelain or other things, spice, Marco Polo was in the luggage of Marco Polo. There was also glove puppets. It's one explanation of glove puppetry and the so powerful glove puppetry in Europe, because this kind of puppets, the glove puppetry, are now the most representative puppets from Europe. So maybe half of the puppeteers, or perhaps not the half of puppeteers in Europe, but glove puppeteers, or they know, or they learn the glove puppetry in the academy. The most difficult techniques and device is, of course, the string puppets. So, and it's old techniques. It's an old device. There was also in history of the string puppets inside Europe, and also shadow puppets. But glove puppetry, Venezia, Commedia dell'arte, Carnival, that time of the 15th, 16th century is the more important time, the core time for the legacy of European puppetry across Europe. Do you know that until the 18th century, the puppeteers and the comedians through Europe were only Italians? So we can discover links of Italian puppeteers from Portugal to Russia. In Russia, this character is not Arlecchino, it's Petrushka. In Lisbon, it's Don Roberto. In Spain, it's Don Cristobal. In France, they have developed Polichinelle. And with Polichinelle, there's a character from Pulcinella from Napoli, another very important character in the history of puppetry, Pulcinella, Polichinelle, Punch. So the first very known glove puppets across Europe was also Punch, the English hero. By the fact of this link with Venezia, by the fact with the link with Napoli, because puppetry is also linked with the cities, not of states. There was no states in Europe at that time. There was empire of the Habsburg Empire, the most important empire, or there was the kingdom of Great Britain, but there was not on England, there was more than England. And for example, Belgium were part of the Spanish Empire until the 17th century, at that time when Louis XIV, the French king, Le Roi Soleil, the Sun King, was perhaps fighting to have independence against the big empire of Austrian Empire or Spanish or Austrian Empire, Habsburg. So I am a string puppeteer by family, by education, by experience, by shows. I love glove puppetry for sure, and I love Italian puppetry because without Italian puppetry, there will be no really history of puppetry in Europe. I will start because we start with this legend of Venezia. It's another. We have to also to underline the link with the civilization. If you want to understand European puppeteers, even unconscious, if you think that we are free, we don't revere anymore gods or the god Holy Mary, but marionette, the terminology of marionette is also a kind of obscure or confused term, and we don't know really if the term is coming from Marie, the Holy Virgin, the Mother of God. And it's by this way the church in Europe decides to sustain puppetry at a time when church needed support and education for the people. So puppetry was the perfect support and medium to go to the simple people and to try to diffuse the ideas of Christianity. And that's in 12th and the 13th century, there was a development of puppetry inside and outside at the time of the fairs and some very important religious feasts outside the church. But the church normally is in the center of the city, so that's very close to the cathedral. Normally is close to the big place. And by this way, there was also communication, exchange, and fancy. We have time to a little bit be free, but also to be educated. And that's why in Europe we have this kind of religious stories, the mysteries. We say Mysteries is a little bit the same as your story in India from Mahabharata or from Ramayana. So that we have this kind of link with the religion who want to use the medium of puppetry and to educate people. Why they have to be educated? At that time, in the Middle Age, I don't know, but it's more or less 99% of the people didn't read and write. So, and if you think that the church make the ceremony in Latin, nobody knows Latin except the priest, even the king didn't know it, or merchant and the bourgeoisie. That's another thing. You know, now you can still understand this dialectic. You have big countries like France, and you have cities. They are growing, rising. They have money. They are inventing bank. This is the time of Gothic. We make a huge cathedral, and we want to have a funny time. We have also this want to make carnival. Carnival is a time at the end of the winter where everybody has a mask, but not only a mask. Is when the rules disappear. You can be the rich, but it's nothing. It's not matter. It's not a matter. The poorest can make a joke to the rich or the powerful man in the city, and it's a carnival time. So we have kind of free time, a little bit chaos, organized and tolerate. And puppeteers was at that time so in this carnival time was so enjoyed and developed. Puppetry was also developed because one of the most advantageous element of puppeteers in comparison with actors, puppets don't eat. It's very cheap actors. Even if we have to learn and to know how to work with puppets and to know what is theater and puppet theater, even if you don't know how to have a direction or changing voice or playing or have fun or writing stories, because already everything is there. But the most of the puppeteers at that time was like the most of people illiterate. They cannot read and write. So that was just canvas. And puppeteers try to rise in the society and to develop their culture. And they want to be paid, well paid. So they travel all the time. So Italians have diffused and was spreading in all countries in Europe. When there was tolerate, when there was a fair, why not to have a show of puppets? So in Paris, in every big cities at that time, in Köln, Madrid is a little bit younger city than Lisbon, for example. But it depends. Toledo was older than Madrid. But history of puppetry is linked with the history of mankind, history of the European civilization. So glove puppetry was a big success, a huge big success. But the string puppets was also there, and there was the idea of the all the time in the mind of the people. The puppets is kind of double. With the string puppets, we have the imaginary of the robots, or mechanical doll. We can just pull a string and the leg is playing. So we have mythology also to the string puppets. Yeah, the mythology from India about Shiva and Parvati, about this sculpture and carver and the statues, and how to make life to these inanimate puppets or statues. It's true that the string marionettes are linked with a kind of vision or microcosm. There are prejudice against the string marionettes. They say that they're small man. And the difference with the glove puppets, the glove puppet is only a head and two hands. So no matters to have legs, no matters to have a body. The glove puppet is a kind of contemporary or modern form of puppets. We don't need to have a body for puppets. But with a string puppet, it's another question. Or with the shadow, we need a kind of representation. And we are coming to a very important point about theater. Representation is a word very complex, and they have a lot of writing about this term. The original term in the Greek civilization in Greek time, because Aristotle has defined mimesis. Mimesis is the mimesis. I think it's okay for the accent in English for this word, very important word. That's the term to explain what is representation for theater. In this wonderful book, written in 4th century before Jesus Christ, Aristotle starts to try to analyze what is theater. There are no explanation about puppet theater, and we have also lose in the history the chapter about comedy. We have only the chapter about tragedy and what is mimesis inside the tragedy, and also the poetics. The poetics for Aristotle is the same as working with hands, and able to examples for Aristotle. What is a poetics? Poetics is the man who is able to change a rock, a stone, to a statue. A carpenter with the wood able to make a table. Or not carpenter, but the woodman. But that's poesis. And inside the poesis, there's also this ability of inventing stories. So the inventing stories, mythos, is myth. The power of writers, of this craftsman who is able to write a story, is to create a mythos. And this mythos, by the direction and by the characters create mimesis. So something plausible, truthworthy, we can look and be concentrate more than 1 hour or 2 hours and to be inside the show and understand what is the point about this story. The tragedy, the betrayal between the sister, and the father, or this problem of family. But tragedy is able to speak about very universal topic, about very simple things and writing. But theater is not only writing, it's also actors on the stage with mask, because at that time in the Greece, in the Greek, the old Greek, there are no actors with the face, the skin. So that was totally hidden. And we have mask inside the history of puppet theater. The concept of the theater, the notion of theater, and the etymology of this word is what is visible. Theater is what is visible. People is going to one time per year because they are a huge feast of Dionysus. It was a god in the time Greece time, from the north of Greece, from the Thrace part of Greece. We don't know if Thrace is foreign part of Greece or not Greece, but for example, Thrace, Trachea is normally now is the Bulgaria, Macedonia, somewhere there. It's not Greece. So the first poet in the history of European culture is Orpheus. I don't know if somebody knows Orfeo. This poet who come from this part of region, and Alexander the Great come from. He was king of this part of the north of Greece, and it's very interesting. Also, I'm just thinking about that now. That Aristotle was teacher to Alexander the Great, and what is the link between Greece and India? Is Alexander the Great. So because it's the only one who has succeed to go, even if it was misconduct or there was a failure in the project, but that was the first the approach to try to make a kind of universality and to go and to overcome all the time the borders. That's the explorer, the Greek Alexander the Great. So is it a random that Aristotle, follower of Plato, one of the other big philosophers in the history of Europe, tried to define what is theater? At a time where in Athens, the city Athens, the most important thing was the theater, the moment of the year, the feast of Dionysus, the god of wine, and the theater, the god of the enjoyment, the death, and also to the god of the life. This kind of in the polytheism of Greek polytheism, Dionysus is also very important. It's a god of the trust. So it's the god of the theater. We have making shows at that time at the end of April, in the beginning of the spring, to this god, a kind of rebirth, renaissance. And this kind of rebirth is the joy of the life. And there's with stories, with moments. In the evening, there are people, the slave to the until the master of the city Athens come to the theater, and there was more than 200,000 people able to go to the theater in Athens 4 centuries before and to see a tragedy of Aeschylus of Sophocles. I don't know if people can realize what is the meaning of this huge moment of the year for all the citizens of the Athens. So I think this moment is also very a core moment for the history of European civilization and perhaps for the concept of the theater. Of course, the theater, the concept of the theater is from the Greek point of view, is the European point of view, is not the worldwide. There are so many different way of thinking and inventing this kind of symbolical events of bringing together all people, citizens from different castes, and even ethnies, and to go and to share a moment together, no matters what you are and how much you are rich, and you spend your time to share one night or 3 nights, and you decide democratically. Perhaps it's one of the only moments of the democracy, in the democracy of Athens, the Greek democracy, to decide if this show and this playwright is better than the other one. So what about the puppets in this Greek civilization? There is a word about, and the string puppet was already there. Unfortunately, the civilization, the Greek civilization, consider every time, even Plato in the very famous text of Republic about the cave and we are all citizens imprisoned and looking some shadows, and we cannot see the copy or the puppets behind us because there's just the lights of the fire projecting shadows on the wall of the cave. And the philosophy has to bring us outside the chain of own body, and to go to the truth in the reality of the supra reality of ideas. That's the lesson of the basical lesson of the Platonism. I don't know, perhaps there are also the same idea in philosophy in India. There are another name of this kind of metaphysic view about the reality. And in this kind of metaphysical view, puppets is just a copy of a copy. It's not the reality. So it's impossible for Platon to say, I like or I love puppetry or shadow puppets. He would say that's just a copy of a copy. I prefer to see the reality. The show of the reality is more better than the show of the copy or the simulacrus. It's nothing. Aristotle was a little bit more with compromise. He has a little bit better consideration. He saw the connective power of the theater. And the puppet theater, we have one reference in a book of Aristotle. It's about the world, De Mundo. He say that if he makes a comparison, he say that God is playing with living beings, as a puppeteer with his puppets, a marionnettist with a marionette. So this image of demiurge of God, that's the puppeteer, the string puppeteer, and this mythology of the someone behind the puppets. And we have still this kind of prejudice in the common sense culture to say who is pulling the string. Is this politician not a puppet of another one? He is not able to be free, or that's only a puppet. Oh, it's interesting to think that the puppets are only a second creature or object, symbolical object, without ability to be independent of the puppeteer. In one way, it's true. Concretely, without the puppeteer, the puppets, or without the marionnettist, the marionette could not be alive. But without the marionnettist is not a marionnettist. So in one way, if you have experience of playing marionettes, you know that it's not just ordering to the puppets to make this movement. It's not just a robot. Even the challenge of making an android or a robot in the future will not be the same as making a show with puppets or marionettes, because we will ever need the hands of a marionnettist and the creation of this man behind the puppets. But the most beautiful thing is that the marionette can also be in kind of illusion, in autonomy, in regard with the puppeteer. And when the puppet starts, when the marionette starts to be alive alone, when the puppet starts to live, even with the small movement, but with the dialogue with the marionettist and the marionette, we start to create this unique moment of the puppet show or the marionette show. But I will come back to Greece and the Greek antiquity. So the metaphysics consider in one way poetics. Poetics is a way of making something with words and playing pleasure, creating pleasure, because in the representation of these writings. So representation is creating catharsis, emotion, and that's the pleasure of the theater. So if you want to understand the movies, the cinema, you go to read the book of 70 pages of the Poetics of Aristotle. It's the same as Natya Shastra, perhaps, but perhaps Natya Shastra is longer, is bigger than a Poetics. But Poetics is the Bible of all Hollywoodian movies. He explained how it's important to have a development of the stories, and with a climax and the resolution of the conflict inside the story was to develop a conflict. That's the art of writing a good legend or myth story for Aristotle. There is another reference that's Aristotle is not against the theater, not against the puppet theater. I don't think so. That's a metaphor for him, and perhaps it's something interesting that humans want to be God in place of God in one way. But Xenophon, this was more than Platon and more than Aristotle. Xenophon was a scribe, a writer of Adventures of Alexander the Great. So this crazy that stories sometimes have coincidence. And in one book, his banquet, he say that puppets is a show with a puppet, string puppets from Syracuse, but he didn't like puppets because this is not actors. He say that how is possible that in the big stage of Athens, after Sophocles, after Aeschylus and Euripides, we have a puppet player on the stage of the huge stage of Athens. He cannot understand that. So perhaps there is a kind of decay for him that the puppet theater, the theater was falling down in the puppet theater. But in the history, we think more the reverse of this judgment, this metaphysical judgment. Actors, in one way, is expressing emotion by the body and also the ability of speaking or the telling or of living the text. Or since more than 50 years or after the Second World War, in Europe there are another school. They want to make more physical theater, and the school of mimes come from this wish and dance, the school of dance or contemporary dance, making show with dance and mixing things. That's from this one to destroy the importance of the text in the imaginary of the show. That's we say that since 30 years is a very important theorist academic was written a book the post-drama, the post-dramatic show. So there's Hans Lening, a German in Frankfurt University. But that's the post-drama. It's interesting because we have changed the point of view. Because drama is also a word, a Greek word, is a word present in the book of Poetics. And the drama is a synthesis of this story and this events inside the intrigues, the plot of the stories. So that's the drama and the conflict and the resolution. There are puppet drama too. There are writers for puppeteers for puppet shows. So that's another point. There was all the time in the march of the puppetry in Europe. We start in Italy, we go to Greece, and now we are almost in the 20th century. But I will come back a little bit in the history because it's important for the audience to know in this kind of improvised lectures about puppetry, in the history of European puppetry, very quick history of European puppetry, to know that there was also a big revolution in the mind in the 16th century with the Renaissance, in the same time of the theater with the coming all'arte. With Copernic and with Galilei, we have learned that we are not the center of the cosmos. So the science say that we have one planet, and the center of the universe at that time, that was the sun. It's not the sun running around the earth, but the earth running around the sun. It's a kind of changing view, very important. So that was not so easy for church to admit also. But we have to wait the 18th century and the century of Enlightenment with Voltaire, Immanuel Kant, with all this big finger of the tolerance to accept different religion, different Protestant. It's not Catholic, it's not Orthodox, it's not also some kind of Anabaptist sect or a Calvinist, or no matters. But before there was a lot of tragedy and there was a lot of massacres about this difference between us, among us, and beliefs. Okay, you want to that? What is enlightening talk? Okay, this important time. What is enlightenment? Normally, in the European conception, people has not to be able to have a singularity, or to have an individuality. So normally before the 17th century, the 18th century, people go to the church to see went to the church to see the priest, and the priest said to these people what he had to think. So somebody else say to you what you have to think. The Enlightenment, that was the big revolution, is to say you have to, with the Protestant legacy, you have to write and to read the text originally by yourself. You are free by your mind. So this freedom of mind is a richness. And it's by this freedom of mind, you have to accept a different point of view of yourself, but also to know something else than you. It's not because you are you that you are the best. You have to be a little bit open and to read perhaps the Bible, the Holy Bible, not to wait of the Pope to say in Rome what is the important thing for the Christian. So the 18th century, a lot of thinkers, philosophers was against even the church in Europe. They want no more church because there was too many massacres and people dying for nothing because they say I am Protestant, so we kill this man because he's Protestant. Why? Well, because he's Protestant, but he believes in God like me, the same God of me, but it's not the same religion. So we have to kill him. But it's why also it's interesting the Protestantism has a so important place in the European civilization. They have developed this kind of every freedom, individual freedom. We don't need the priest to read. After that, you have misinterpretation because it's not easy to read the holy text. But in the same time, we have the development of the print and the books in Europe. So the books are spreading, and they are philosophers. They are in the university since the 12th century. They say we have to think more and more deeply about what is the reality. Immanuel Kant, for example, has written a very famous text. Is what is the majority? Majority is how to be oriented by myself in my life. I am independent. I'm a free will, and I can master my will. I can be free. I can also stress an opinion, and more than an opinion, a thought, and my freedom to another one, and to the king or to another, and I can discuss. The public opinion is born in this moment of this bourgeoisie or rich people able to think that the church is not the truth, the last truth. So what is the majority? What is the orientation in my life? What is right, left? I don't need somebody to say where I have to go. So in one way, I don't need a puppet master behind me, the church, for example. I can be as a human or puppet, but also human. I can be free. So in one way, perhaps we are still puppets, but puppet with a free mind. And with also sometimes we can also resist against ourselves or the bad sides of everybody. But the most beautiful thing is the development of thinking. That's the enlightenment. Even if in reality it's not the case. We have so many obstacles, but the only thing that you cannot destroy in one man is his thought. So you can kill him, but the idea will still there. So you cannot kill the idea of somebody carrying this idea. So sometimes there are false ideas. There are inhuman ideas. That's a lot of industry examples. But when you try to have a kind of justice with values, when you try to be a little bit uh, open to the other, why, for example, I am right, and not you, the other one. We can try to discuss together. Perhaps it's the relativity, but relativity is not the result of the enlightenment. Relativity is the base, the ground. And with this relativity, we can build something else. And perhaps idea and universality and mankind, human rights, and also thought, concepts. Um, that's an European speaking, sorry, but I believe in this thing because it's by the Enlightenment, I had the opportunity to go to university and to read books. And by this enlightenment, I can read off, even if I have a professor in the University for Philosophy. He said to me, that's the idea of Kant. You can make this interpretation, and I can try by myself to develop my interpretation inside in his interpretation. And sometimes there are another opposite interpretation, but with this opposite interpretation, we can try to provide another interpretation and to create new things. Conflict is not all the time the war. Conflict can be also rich for everyone. So alignment is a tolerance. It's a kind of way of. It's difficult because that's not an evidence. We have to work. about it. So that's not because Europe has developed enlightenment that we don't have developed slavery in 19th century. That's a paradox. Why we have developed the slavery in 19th century and we have in 18th century developed the idea that every man has the right to be free. So it's a process. History is also a process. Enlightenment for the puppetry, that was the idea, perhaps, that the puppeteer has a man as another, and playing with a kind of freedom. He can perhaps criticize the power with puppets. But the puppetry was a kind of enlightenment in one way, because before, even in the time of the dictator or authoritarianism, when they are king, very powerful, there are no rule of law and no constitution, you have to be careful. You can be killed very quickly, so that we cannot say to the king or the prince that he's a stupid man. So, in one way, puppeteer has all the time to be clever. And this cleverness was also by the puppets, how to say to the people something without to say it directly. Puppetry is a way of making this message possible. And it's crazy that puppetry, for example, in the history of Europe, has played a very important role for small countries. Czech Republic, for example. It's why Czech Republic is not a big country, it's the centrum of Europe. And this country has developed this love of puppetry. So, as every country, the Italians come there and they propose shows at the end of the 19th century, in the same time of Enlightenment, in the French Revolution, and just before, a little bit before. But this forbidding appeals, perhaps, in the sense of the birth of the Enlightenment. The Italian comedian was forbidden in Europe. And there was a law from the last king from France, Louis XVI. He has written a law against, an edict against the theater and the people making theaters, because they are too noisy, they are like bohemians, they are prone of disorders, social disorders, and they are too many stealers when there are puppet shows or comedians in some cities and some fairs. So it was forbidden. So we can say it's finished. There are no shows anymore. But incredibly, it's better. Sorry. We see the rising of many local heroes. Arlecchino, for example, even if it's coming from the Commedia dell'arte, or here just behind me, this the Czech heroes, Kasparek. Just a shadow falling. So you will see something very important. What you see, a technique, and if you look very specially, it's vertical. It's a cross. We are in Europe. We say that's a classical control bar from the Italian legacy culture in puppetry for the string puppets. That's the Christian cross. Why? Because puppeteers has to play with the strings and the church. So this character, perhaps I think that's a clown, and that's the representative of the Czech culture, Kasparek. Why the Czech has developed puppetry with the legacy, Italian legacy, with the church, and We have to play like that. It's very rigid a little bit, but carved in the linden wood, very beautiful puppets. This character appears in the beginning of 19th century, after the Enlightenment, at the time of the Romanticism. Romanticism is a very important time also for puppetry. If you look this character, I don't know, it will be, it will go. I will come back with the Czech culture, but here the same. That's a Czech control bar, very evident. And this Pierrot Lunaire. Very typical French character, but mythological, very important. Coming from the commedia dell'arte, and this a mime. And it's romantic because he don't speak. He's all the time sad. He's looking the moon. And this character is coming by the mimesis of huge mime, French mime, Etienne de Bureau. I don't know if it was Etienne, but de Bureau, that was the first very important mime. Mime Marceau is 20th century, but the 19th century de Bureau. And he has created this character, these moony, moonlight characters in this romanticism. Romantics will love puppetry and string puppets. But I will come back. It's another part of the history of Europe, but I will come back after in the Romanticism. But I finish with the Czech culture. The Czech culture was under pressure of Austrian Empire. So it's a little bit difficult for the Czech people wanting to speak Czech, not German, to have a place where the Czech language is tolerated. The Czech country is a country of beer, so there are a lot of workers and peasants going to the bar and the pub or the gospoda, they say, and sometimes they play puppets with beers, but they are playing in Czech. So that was the only time where the Czech people can criticize the Austrian and the German, the very important German culture. And puppetry was the best friend for the Czech people to be emancipated from the pressure of German culture. It's why the puppetry is so important in Czech country. In one way, puppetry can be also an enlightenment. So it also a dynamic of creating something more and also free for creating freedom for people. So I see people sharing the screen with me. It's already 1 hour, or I don't know. It's already 1 hour. So I think I will stop a little bit because I could speak a little bit more, but I will stay that I have speaking about medieval times, the 16th, 17th century, the Enlightenment, the Romanticism with the growing of new characters, and the 20th century. I haven't spoken about my teacher, but no matters. It will be another time, or you can see my PowerPoint or my website or my profile in Facebook or on Instagram. You are welcome. And I hope that was not so boring. If there are questions, please. Thank you too for listening.
Thank you, Dimitri.
I think there is a question.
Please.
Abdushiti, can you show the comment?
Yes.
Okay, this is by Pradoshna. Yes. Can you see the comment? Can you read the comment on the screen?
You can read the comment.
Well, I am starting with enlightening. Okay.
Yeah, I can read it out.
But
actually, look at the traditional puppeteers in Europe and what are their social and economic status.
They were poor. They were poor. It depends of the status of puppeteers, but most of them were poor. But think about Venezia. I come back one more time with Venezia. Why
Yes.
this beautiful city for tourists? You know that this city is the city where Monteverdi, the inventor of opera,
Yeah.
was born there. And the first opera with puppets were in Venezia in the 17th century. So opera is not for poor people. You need to have 40 people making music. So there's more for the aristocracy. And there are puppets coming, and there are also singers with puppets. So in one way, you have this kind of puppetry, aristocracy in 17th century. Even the master of Mozart, um, there are opera in the 18th century. What is the name of another big man before Mozart in the middle? No matters. But think about that some followers of Monteverdi, the creator of opera, has written only for puppets, not for singers. So in one way, we have this kind of aristocrat. The string puppets are is evenly. It's very aerial. It's light. So it's like an angel. Sometimes they think there's a little bit God playing with strings and pulling with the strings. So in one way, it's aristocratic because it's gods a little bit. And the tradition, Italian tradition, the string or the magnetti or pupazzi were a little bit complicated to travel with them. It's so refined. The string also is breaking very easily. So there was rich puppeteer in one way, and there was puppet plays everywhere in Europe. So there was not perhaps you can find not a puppet theater like me for only children, but there are places where you can see puppets, and you have the most common puppeteers with this kind of puppets or with glove puppets. That's the social, the poorest puppeteers. So that and this one is Corona, is COVID, his name.
Oh.
It's an Italian puppeteer, Valerio Sebastian Sacca, who has made COVID as character. He's the king. COVID, Corona. So that's it's also a character, but a kind of inventivity. It's a puppeteer from the region of what a random Venezia, Treviso. So there are some grounds, some place, or this one, or it's also Napoli. I haven't spoken about Napoli and Pulcinella, but those puppets normally is for people. And it's only in the 19th century or beginning of 20th century. But puppet family, there are some kind of successful puppet family in Europe. There are the family Alden, is an English family. They were so successful in 19th century that he could come in Paris and play during 1 month before 3,000 people during 1 month in the 19th century, in the 1880. In this year, and he can travel even to United States because puppeteers from Europe travel and make also in Covent Garden place and shows and very successful. That's one big family. There's another family, for example, very important in Czech Republic, Kopitsky. His family is working puppetry around 2nd century. It's the oldest known puppeteer, family name, puppeteer from Czech Republic, Kopitsky. Thomas Alden from England. From Italy, there's the family Colla. They are now is the 11th generation, is 2nd century. But you have the same, I think there's parallel between history between India and Europe, because I know that there are a family puppet family from 3rd century or 4th century in India. So that the oldest that I know is 2nd century, almost 2nd century. But after that, there are the modernity and It depends of the puppeters, of the success of the puppetry, or the ability of selling himself. You know, that's all the time this a part of arbitrary.
Dimitri, one more
I have
question.
another question, yes, from Pradosh. Let me read it up for you. He says, are the traditional puppeteers still in the art, or is it professionalizing?
In one way, you have sometimes you need a master, so you need a kind of traditionalism to know how to learn, to have this kind of process. Sometimes you have the academy or the some high school making new student more professional who wants a more object theater or a bunraku style of yeah, we have plenty of possibility in puppetry. That's what is amazing in puppetry. From which part of puppetry we are talking? Because puppetry in Japan is not the same. And even if you see now the world puppetry, we have a kind of mixture of everything. So that we need traditional way of learning, but we need also the modern way of making puppets. I think so. We are from on time. I think you have to invent now puppetry. So the best respect for the own ancestor and masters is to invent a new way with the respect or without, but to make puppetry still, to continue to make puppetry. I think that's the best way. No, it's not to say that puppetry is dead and we do what we have to do since 1 century and it's just like that and we don't change. It's difficult perhaps for some people, but I think that we have to, yeah. For India, I think, yeah.
Ratnamala Nore, a famous puppeteer of India, she's writing a very nice glove puppets. Your
Thank you.
puppets.
I don't
Yes,
know.
I was,
Okay. Thank you.
Ratnamala.
So I think it's normal to have enjoyment when we play,
Yes.
and because we love to play puppets. I think so. If you are from this cast, this misfortune cast, but you can do so many things. You can do so many things with puppets. Why to try to define puppets? Yeah.
Another comment from Pradoshnath. By the way, Dimitri, Pradoshnath is our director of Center for Knowledge, Ideas, and Development.
Okay, but
Yeah, and
too difficult for me. Oh, I need help because I don't read Sanskrit. Yeah, I don't need. I think in India there are more Bengali is different from Canada, is different from
yeah.
Kerala, and there are so many different languages. So, excuse me, I will not be able to have a very deep research in this huge continent of India. So I just count on friendship of Indian puppeteers, if there are some friends there for me, and they can help me a little bit to know a little bit better India and the Indian culture. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you
so
Dimitri.
much.
That was incredible.
Yes.
Incredible
Have
session.
you understood something? I have tried to be a little more clear, but it's difficult. I have play, I have jump between periods, but perhaps it's better to have A, B, C, D. It's a little bit boring sometimes to make academical lecture, a little bit more active, a little bit. But I start with your question. So about puppetry, and I start with Venezia, but it's a very important city in history of Europe because a lot of tourists, Indian tourists, go to Venezia to see the beautiful boats and the beautiful buildings. But culturally, it's a huge place for us. So, place of freedom, place of merchants, place of first banks, place for puppetry, place for carnival, of crazy, place of opera, crazy. And then just one city. And the other city has something. Brussels. What does Brussels invent? The administration of
Before we
Thank
go,
you.
can we see
Namaste for everybody. All the best. I think, and keep safe, everybody. I
Yes,
hope that
thank you so much.
everything will be all right.
Next time we will do something about Indian and European puppetry. Dimitri, you know very well.
I have some Indian puppets, yeah, some.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, wonderful.
this
Wonderful.
book, also, go to the website. It's a book about the collection of the Museum of Brussels, and they have the
Please
the pictures.
read the comment. Wonderful session. Thank you. We would love to see your show sometime. Come to India with your show. Yes,
it's one my purpose.
you are a wonderful puppeteer. I have a chance to see your presentation. Thank you
just
so
a demonstration.
much.
There was not a representation. I was only me. So, and I was so impressed by the professionalism of traditionalist puppeteer from India. So I say, I will not just explaining. I have to inventing a little demonstration of ability of techniques because they were killed. I say it's not a puppeteer, this man.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All the best. All the best. And see you one day in Calcutta or in Brussels or in India or somewhere else in Europe. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Actually, now you are in India and we also in Brussels.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I don't think that a lot of Belgians show watch the video, but it's okay. No matters. That was also more for the Indian people.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
keep
Namaste.
Okay.
God with you. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.